Hello, everybody. This is Attorney Diane Claxton. We are doing our weekly live. Usually, I do a live either with somebody else, or by myself, or with another attorney, or we have also some friends like Utah Solanos, La Voz de Texas, that we sometimes do lives with. So today we're going to do a live in English, and maybe at the end we might go a little bit into Creole because we have been doing a lot of information in Spanish, and there are some clients that don't speak Spanish and they want the same information. So they'll be like, "Well, can you do a live in English so that we can like get the information?" The thing is, the majority of my clients are Latinos and speak Spanish, so I do give a lot of information in Spanish. But I have other clients from other places, from French-speaking countries, from English-speaking countries. So we're going to invite attorney Carl Pierre today. He is fluent in Creole. He's an attorney licensed in New Jersey. He works in the whole United States in immigration, and he, has his own knowledge with immigration. He was previously a magistrate with the courts, and he has some knowledge in criminal type of cases as well. So when we have cases that are U visa and those type of cases, then normally we would consult Carl and ask him like, okay, what do you think? Do you think that this case qualifies? Okay, so I'm gonna invite Carl. Hoy voy a hacer el live en inglés porque tengo muchos clientes que me están preguntando la información. Dicen que siempre estoy dando información en español porque la mayoría de mis clientes son latinos, pero vamos a tratar de dar un poco de información para la comunidad que habla inglés también. Entonces voy a invitar al abogado Carl Pierre, dame un segundito, y él va a entrar con nosotros. Vamos a hablar de las actualizaciones de qué está pasando en inmigración, pero en inglés. Muchas veces son la misma cosa que he hablado con Utah Solanos la semana pasada, y también voy a tener un live con La Voz de Texas muy pronto, donde vamos a hablar de esos asuntos que está pasando en inmigración. Muchas cosas, casi cada semana sucede algo. Entonces, déjame ver, va a entrar el abogado Carl en un momento. Okay. Carl, are you there?
Hi, Diane. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but the camera, you got to reverse it because we're
Okay.
looking at
Sorry.
the bottom. So, okay, I was telling everybody that today we're going to do our live in English because we do a lot of lives in Spanish and we give a lot of information. I have had clients reproach me that we don't give enough in English. So, but I want to talk a little bit about the similar stuff, but it's changing weekly. Weekly, something is happening, so it's not like something that we can say, okay, this week we're going to talk about that, and that's it. Everything is changing regularly. So,
Yes.
thank you, Attorney Carl Pierre, for joining us today to talk about just the weekly immigration updates. So, a lot of things that have happened, and I want to talk about a few things. The biggest thing for me this week, or last week, was when I found out about the 10 days. 10 days. That's a big deal. So basically, starting in the first week of March, when you have your case in immigration court, normally, if you don't win your case, you have 30 days to file an appeal with the Board of Immigration Appeals.
Mhm.
Those 30 days, you can sometimes, if you don't have an attorney, get an attorney. Preferably, you already have an attorney, because if you already have an attorney, that attorney will already have your case ready to go, and they can file the paperwork for you like on time or early. Because when you get those 30 days, it has to be filed like in the hands of the Board of Immigration Appeals before the 30 days. You cannot file it on the 30th day or the 31st day. They will just deny it.
Mhm.
So it really needs to be in their hands beforehand. So best case scenario, you already have a lawyer and your lawyer has your case ready to go. If you don't have a lawyer, which I've had that situation, and people come to me, I want to file an appeal, it is much more difficult for the lawyer. One, because they're not already registered as your lawyer. So it's a little bit of a hassle to get registered. So maybe instead of filing the paperwork online, they have to file it in paper because they're not listed as your lawyer and the
Yeah.
case is already closed. And
Mhm.
they don't know everything about your case, so then now they have to go and like study about your case. the biggest thing to me, that one of the reasons I don't like taking cases like that, is because the evidence is closed. So when the evidence closes at the end of the case, you cannot at that point like submit more evidence. Whereas if you like, if we were already your attorney, we're gonna make damn sure that we submit as much evidence as we can. So it may be that the case is closed and now it's going to the appellate court, or we're going to the, sorry, the Board of Immigration Appeals,
Yes.
but it's going to go like with a lot of evidence. That doesn't mean that the case is always going to get approved, but it's not going to go like a paper, just the forms and, skeletal type of case. Whereas if you come to me for the appeal, I can file that appeal, but I'm not really able to submit more evidence. So what's the big deal that happened? The big deal
Hmm.
is that those 30 days are getting reduced now to 10 days. So, what does that mean? If you go to court and the judge denies your case, you have now 10 days to submit an appeal. So, that is kind of a little an impediment, I think, because you have to like 10 days to maybe, if you don't have a lawyer, look for a lawyer. And the
Hmm.
lawyer may not want to take the case because it's at the last minute and it's too short of a time for a lawyer to work on the appeal and everything. So, I think it's even more important to make sure you have a lawyer in advance. I know it sounds terrible because it sounds like I'm saying that because I'm a lawyer, but I'm just saying it just
Yeah.
it makes it just so much more difficult because now those 10 days are so much shorter. The other thing is the fees, Carl, right?
Yes, the
You,
fees. The appeals are not free. The
mhm,
appeals are now up to, I believe it's now $1,030
mhm,
for the fees. So that's another thing that's making it difficult with the appeal time being shortened, because now clients have to be able to make that payment in within 10 days as opposed to within 30 days. So you got to
mhm.
be ready for that. And also, like you were saying, in trying to find an attorney within 10 days. So having to start a contract with an attorney, giving them the information, having everything prepared, ready to submit, making payments to A, the attorney, and then B, now to the BIA, the Board of Immigration Appeals.
Yeah,
That can be a lot on an individual. So that's one of the reasons why we see like this is a tactic that is making it very harmful, and is very detrimental to clients' cases, because it's going to impede on their abilities to fight their cases with full vigor as they would like to. It makes it very
mhm,
difficult for them to be able to actually explain everything that's happening, especially if it is a new attorney that's coming onto their case. They can't really fully explain everything that happened. But like you said,
mhm,
if it's that it's one of our clients, like we're already retained as your as counsel, we would have experience with your case. We would know what's going on already. So it can make it that the process goes a little bit quicker.
yeah.
But it's still just tough. Like to give you 10 days to do an appeal is it's really tough.
That was part of the big ugly bill. So when they increased the fee for the appeal was $110, then it
Mhm.
jumped to like 1,000 something. Now it's $1,030. The other thing that's back is the $100 fee for the asylum cases. Remember when everybody
Yes.
was going crazy in September filing the $100, and you had to file it with, if you have a case in court and if you have a
Hmm.
case with USCIS. Well, for the court, there was a case. I think it was Asylum Seeker Advocacy Project (ASAP) that was
Hmm.
suing about that because they said that it was very chaotic. Like they announced it and then people had like a few days to file it, and it wasn't
Yes.
done in a very organized manner. So they had put an injunction and they had paused that $100 fee. Well, that's back. So the court overturned that. Everything is about filing appeals. And now that $100 fee, if you have your case in court, you have to pay the $100 fee every year. And it's not just once a year. It's not just an initial payment. It's every year you have to pay $100
Hmm.
fee to maintain your case. But what does this cause? I think more opportunities for them to say that you've abandoned your case,
Yes.
because if you have to pay this fee and like, oh, I paid the fee and I'm done with it, but then a year goes by and you forget to pay it again, they can use that as a pretext to say you have abandoned your case and therefore they're closing your case. So that's like one of the other big deals that I think people have to pay attention to, with the 10 days, the fees. Those are like, I just feel like they're just making it harder and harder for immigrants, to putting more and more like impediments for immigrants to be able to do their paperwork, and it's just very like unjust and unfair because we're talking about people that are not necessarily millionaires.
Right, exactly.
People are just
Uh,
working
s-
people, and then it's like more and more fees, more and more fees. So I know there's a bunch of other stuff that also happened like this week, but I don't know if you have something you want to talk about, Carl, before I move on about like just the new fees that are coming on because there's so many. Um,
There are so many. It is.
mhm,
But even like in the asylum, the annual asylum fee, just in
mhm,
making that payment, there wasn't proper guidance with it at all. Like, there
mhm.
were some judges that were saying, yeah, it's just for the lead on the case has to pay the $100, and then some judges were like,
Yeah,
no, everyone has to pay the 100. So if it
each
was a family of
member of the family.
five, he
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Oh, it's 500," but then you get another judge that says, "No, it's just the lead of the case that pays the 100." So that confusion as well, was making it that it was difficult for some people to pay, because you would hear that, "Oh, for one person it's 100, but for me it's five, just because I'm a family of five. I have to pay
Mm-hmm.
500," and there wasn't much clear guidance on that. So
Mm-hmm.
then, we know that it's very difficult to get anything back from the government. So to even
Yeah.
be like, "Hey, I overpaid. Do I get a refund?"
Mm-hmm.
We don't see that happening. That's could take some time if it even does happen. So
Mm-hmm.
just now that to have a little bit more clear guidance on what's happening, what they're expecting, how to make the payments. Even with that, so the website was live and then it was crashing, and so
Yeah.
people weren't getting the receipts. You didn't know if your payment
Yeah,
went through.
website kept crashing. It was crazy. It was crazy. And then the other thing is, like back to the BIA appeals, they're
Hmm.
also going to make it easier for the judges to dismiss your appeal. I had a client
Yes.
call me today, like freaking out, saying like, "Oh, I heard they're going to deny all the BIA appeals, and because
Hmm.
his case is pending on appeal." Technically this should be something that's going to be implemented. It's not when
Hmm.
they make an announcement, it's usually something that they're planning on implementing in a few weeks, in a month. They can't really go retroactive because then that would be what we call in law school like an ex post facto law. So
Hmm.
the ex post facto law, basically it's a legal term, but basically what it means is you cannot make something that was not a crime in the past a crime now, or you can't like change the law to penalize someone that did something in the past. I remember the example we always learned in law school. I remember you must remember this, but I remember my law professor said it's like, a town has, let's say, jaywalking is like, let's say it's just a citation, and then
Hmm.
they decide that, oh, from now on, jaywalking just means you cross the street without when you're not supposed to, like you don't cross when you have the light, and sometimes you can get a fine. Some places consider it a citation, but he said if they come back and say, well, from now on jaywalking is a felony crime, and now anybody who jaywalks across the street is going to get arrested and put in jail for a felony, that would be like okay. But from the time that they make that announcement, if they go backwards and say, okay, last month you crossed across
Hmm.
without looking, or without waiting for your light to cross the street, and we're going to make that a felony, that's considered an ex post facto law because you're going backwards to put someone in jail for something that wasn't a crime at the time. So
Hmm.
normally when they make these changes, it's usually going forward. The thing you have to be careful with is when is the date that it's going to change, because once it makes
Right.
that change, yeah, going forward you need to follow the rules. You can't say, well, oh, before it wasn't this. No, they don't care. They don't care.
Hmm. Yes.
They don't care. So the other thing about the BIA appeals, which I think is a really big deal that's going to be stressed on attorneys, is they're saying that basically it's going to be a very short time. Like the judges are going to have more discretion to dismiss the
Yes.
case. So the judges have to like kind of come to an agreement that they're going to accept the appeal. And if they don't accept the appeal, or if they don't feel like there's enough grounds to accept the appeal, they can
Hmm.
go ahead and dismiss the case at once. But as I said, that should be moving forward from when they make this announcement, which probably I don't think it's starting immediately, but it may be starting in March. I don't remember the exact date when it's starting, but it's coming up. So, but it's not going to be like if you had your case pending, like that's it. So it's more like from the future. But this is even more of a reason why you may want to have a lawyer again, because now you may have like if your brief is not well prepared, and they look at it and said this is a really weak appeal, they can dismiss it from right then and there, and then you don't have anything, and basically you have an order of deportation. Once you have an order of deportation, ICE can come in and just start deporting people. I think that's part of the reason why they're doing that, is
Hmm.
because normally when you file an appeal, it is the deportation is frozen until the judge from the Board of Immigration Appeals makes a decision. And since there's usually a backlog, usually that doesn't happen right away. But if they say, well, we're just going to dismiss your case, that's more people for ICE to have access to deport.
Yes.
That's what I
Yes.
the goal is. Might just be like my opinion. So I think people are gonna have to be like super careful with those. And then the time when you, even if they do accept the case and they say, yeah, we accept it, we're gonna let you file your appeal. Now you have a shorter time to file your arguments, because usually when they accept it, you have to wait a short time, and then maybe they might tell you in 6 months you need to file your argument, or you need to show up at the Board of Immigration Appeals and make your argument, or maybe a year. You don't know, but now they're saying they're going to make it like, I think, 20 days, something like that. It's crazy.
Yes. So some of the government attorneys, they're saying they anticipate to get some summary dismissals within 15 days.
Oh,
So
wow.
I think with those summary dismissals, a lot of it may be just dismissals based on form. So with the
Mhm,
BIA appeals, it is submitting your form E26 and E27, which is
mhm,
your notice of appeal and your appearance,
mhm,
where you would lay out the reasons for this appeal. Where did
mhm.
the judge make an error? And within those forms, if there are maybe questions that are not answered correctly, information
Mhm.
that's left out, the judges are looking to like we're saying, the law of prima facie, just dismiss these
Yeah.
cases. So on its face, they
Mhm,
want to just dismiss a lot of these appeals. So
mhm,
as you mentioned, it'd be great to make sure that you do have an attorney that's reviewing it, making sure that all your I's are dotted, T's across, and making
mhm.
sure that everything is okay, so that when it gets sent, you do get the opportunity to be fully heard. You get the opportunity to plead your case, and make it known to the board, why is it that your case should be reopened? Why should it be sent back and the
Mhm.
judge to rehear the rest of your case? You don't want it to be summarily dismissed early on, because as you mentioned, once that happens, now that judge's decision becomes final, and
Mhm.
that order of deportation is final for you.
Exactly. So we're talking about when you get to the end of your asylum case, like you have your case in court. This is deportation defense. Basically, your asylum case, you're defending and trying to prevent a deportation. Normally, when you're in court, there's usually like two main reasons that you're in court. You are trying to, in both cases, you're trying to defend your deportation. You don't want to get deported. One, it could be that you're doing an asylum and you're requesting asylum because you're afraid to go back to your country. Two could be something called a cancellation of removal. Cancellation of removal is if
Hmm.
you've been here for more than 10 years and you have a wife and kid, you have kids that are sick, you have a wife that's sick and they depend on you. Like it could be vice versa, it could be the wife that's the working one taking care of the family. But either way, you have a family member that is a US citizen or legal permanent resident that depends on you. It can also be parents. So mom and
Hmm.
dad are elderly, they depend on you, and you ask the judge to cancel your deportation. But you have to show that you've been here for 10 years. There are exceptions if you're doing a cancellation of removal based on a VAWA case, and that's Violence Against Women's Act. So if you're
Hmm.
married to a US citizen and the US citizen was super abusive with you, and that he or she never filed the paperwork for you, which is something that happens because sometimes if you're in an abusive relationship, the person may not want you to fix your legal status because they want to keep you
Right.
there in that abusive relationship and make you to the point where you feel like I can't leave, or if I leave, then I might lose my kids or I might get deported or something like that. And you can go to the court, and if you've been here for 3 years, you don't have to be 10 years. If you've been here for 3 years and you can prove this abuse, you can also get cancellation of removal through a VAWA case. And cancellation of removal applies for people that are non-citizens, who may be a green card holder, or it can
Hmm.
apply for someone who has been here in the United States for 10 years and doesn't have a green card. So there's
Right.
also people that have a green card that go through this cancellation of removal process. So those are basically like when you're in court type of situation. But you have the other side, which something just came out, I think today or yesterday, something affecting benefits type of cases. Benefits, is like marriage, family petition, blah, blah, blah. So one of the big things that came out, I think it was yesterday, is that they said that people that have an order of deportation, if they marry a U.S. citizen, then that
Hmm.
U.S. citizen like can't file a family petition for them, or they're not going to approve the family petition. It's something crazy because there have been people that have been here, for years, and maybe they lost their case in court, but they didn't
Hmm.
leave because they had family here. They didn't want to leave, and at that point, if they do marry a U.S. citizen, there's a waiver that you can file, the I-212 waiver, to put to kind of forgive the deportation petition to reapply. So I think they're trying to get around that waiver. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So I think
Yeah.
now they're saying if the marriage took place before you had the order of deportation, then yeah, you can do a family petition. But if the marriage took place after you had the order of deportation, like they're not even going to look at it to see if it's a marriage of good faith. They're not even going to like evaluate if this is a real case. I don't know.
Right.
Well, like on Ayla, there was an attorney. I don't know which case it was. It's not my case, but they said there was a judge who basically the wife and the kids were in court, and the judge accused them of having a fake marriage, and they had kids together, and the wife just bust out crying. The wife, who was a U.S. citizen, was like, "What do you mean it's a fake marriage? Like we got 4 kids."
Exactly. Which is normally that's usually one of our indicators. Like, with someone with having kids, that's
Yeah,
not a relationship that's being fraudulent where they're trying to fake this for the process, you know. So it's very unfortunate that they're trying to change it now because
mhm.
um it was already a tough battle beforehand. We like
Yeah,
to
it was
provide as
never
much
easy.
evidence.
People think this was it was never easy.
No, so
Now we're
it was a
we're borderline, like it went from being hard to like totally unfair. That's what
right.
happened.
Exactly. So, but we just want to remind everyone, just because it's totally unfair, just because it look harder, it's not impossible. Like we're gonna
Yeah,
keep fighting. We're gonna keep doing what we got to do.
yeah.
It's gonna be a little bit tougher, but that's why we focus so much on evidence. We ask for the photos that we need, documents to prove this relationship. Um,
Marriage of
excuse
good
me.
faith. We
We
need
want
to
to
show.
prove it, and we definitely
Mhm.
will work to show it. And if they want 3 pieces of evidence, we're sending 10. We want to make sure that we cover every base, and they
That
know,
is
like, no, this is a
that
marriage
is
of good faith.
true. We
Mhm.
exaggerate a little bit. I went to
Yeah.
USCIS. I had an asylum interview, and like
Hmm.
I had a whole bunch of evidence in advance, and then they were printing it out, and it was like a big evidence like this. And I walked in, and the lady looked at me. Was like, "This is your case?" I was like,
Yes.
"She's like, oh, you're the attorney who sent like a million pieces of evidence." I was like, "Yeah,
Yes.
that's fine."
Right.
But try not to
We're
leave
gonna
like
make it.
nothing to chance, like you know
Exactly.
as, as much evidence as possible. So
Hmm.
and that's basically like where we have to continue doing, because we can't be lax. I don't think that people should totally give up in this circumstance. It's keep fighting, keep believing, keep being prepared. Right now, preparation is half the battle. Doing your
Yes.
what you have to do, preparing, because yes, it is a little bit more difficult, and it's hard because it feels like a lot of people in the government are quitting. So it's
Yeah.
making things, the whole like bureaucratic, machine go slower, because there's
Hmm.
like prosecutors that are overworked and they're quitting. There's officers that are overworked, and USCIS officers that are overworked and quitting. There's even ICE officers that are quitting. So
Yes.
it's so much the volume of work, and not everybody is a bad guy. There are some good people that work for the government. There's some good people that work in the prosecutor's office. There's some good judges, but I do feel like they are getting pressured because to like deny cases. I feel like they're getting pressure to, be harder on cases. And I know some judges have retired, or took taken early
Yeah.
retirement because of that. So it is not easy, but it's not impossible. It's just, you have to go like very, very prepared. But so this thing with like not if you get married after having an order of deportation and they're saying they're not going to approve it, this is just horrible, because the whole point with the I-212 waiver of unlawful presence is you basically request the government to, it's not a waiver of unlawful, it's a permission to reapply. So
Hmm.
permission to reapply after having an order of deportation. And your justification is that you have a family petition I-130 approved, you have family, immediate family here, and then when you ask for that permission to reapply and you submit a lot of evidence showing hardship to the U.S. citizen, I would say they don't care about the immigrant. The hardship is really on the U.S. citizen. How is this going to
Right.
affect the U.S. citizen? But with that, usually you could, if you have a good case showing that, yeah, my parents depend on me, I'm the one taking care of them. My wife has cancer, I'm the one supporting
Hmm.
her. A lot of times they will forgive the deportation, but now they're making it so like they're not even going to approve the family petition. So if you don't get the family petition approved, how are you going to go and request the waiver? So it's
Exactly.
impossible. And so I feel like it's kind of like trying to like block doors at every angle and just making
Hmm.
it more and more difficult for immigrants. And I always say, when I was at USCIS, I think it was yesterday, and somebody was telling me like, oh, they're looking for judges because a lot of judges are quitting. You should be a judge. And I said, hell no.
Yeah.
I could
Yes.
not. I could never. I could not be a judge. I could not be a USCIS officer. I would get fired so fast.
Right.
I
Your
would get
approval
fired.
rate would be way too high.
No, exactly. My approval rating would be high. And the reason why people say, well, not everybody can come here, Diane. I'm like, well, you know what? Before, if you look at the history of immigration,
Hmm.
yes, everybody was coming here.
Everybody. Yep.
You look at the Irish potato famine. You look at,
Hmm.
when the Italians came here. When you look at like, when during World War II, when a lot of people came here, there's the, Polish communities. Like, and if you look at throughout, I would say Europe, there's always been an era where there's have some kind of problems in that country, and at that
Right.
time people have come to America.
Right.
Most of the time for economic reasons. They didn't have to prove
Yes.
that they were being killed and they were going through political asylum, they had been tortured and they had been suffering all this stuff. Most of the time they came for economic reasons. That's the truth.
Yes.
But with this whole system with asylum, you have to prove like there's so many levels. Like you need to prove that you fall into the five categories.
Hmm.
Your persecution has to be based on race, religion, national origin, political opinion, or part of a particular social group. And you have to prove the persecution comes from the government and or a entity that the government is unable or unwilling to control. It's so many things that are required, and you can't just say, well, I'm coming here because I'm looking for a better life. And most people that came before this whole immigration, law started getting more and more and more strict, came for that reason. The vast majority, unless you are Native American or African
Hmm.
American, those are the
Hmm.
only two people that did not come here voluntarily. The Native Americans,
Right.
this is their land. We should respect them above all, and African
Hmm.
Americans. But I feel like if you came from any other country, the Caribbean, Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, Europe, at some point your parents or your grandparents came here. And
Yes.
I personally disagree with all of this just making it so difficult for people, and probably I would make a horrible judge. I just say that up front. I won't even apply. They will fire me like after 15 days, so they'll be like, this lady is approving everybody. Unless you have a criminal record. That's the one thing place where I draw the line. I do draw the line at that. If you're a criminal, then yes, I would deny your case. But if you're coming here and you are looking for a better life, I don't feel like it should be this hard. It's just so hard.
Right.
It's very hard. People say, well, it's so easy. No, it's not. No, it's not. I
Right.
work in this every day. This is not easy.
Yeah, exactly. And especially like being that we're the nation that, us being New Yorkers, we have the Statue of Liberty. And on it, it tells us,
Yes.
give us your poor, you're tired, you're weary. Like
Yes.
it's calling for us to give us the immigrants, calling them to come in, like come find safety, come
Yep.
find harbor here within our
Mhm.
nation, within our
Mhm.
borders. And then now we're just turning away from it. We're abandoning it. Like
Yep.
again, we're from New York. We know so many different communities that were built that
Yes.
have made New York become what it is. Like for
Exactly.
me, I'm
Carl
from
and I were
Brooklyn.
both born in New York City. We live outside of New York now, but New York is such a, like, a melting pot. There's just people from
Yes.
all over, and I think I found people that are from New York are generally like less prejudice, and it's because if
Hmm.
you work in New York, at one point you're going to work with somebody who's not from your background, who's not from your
Exactly.
religion, who's not from your community, and you have to work with them, and that's it. So you're going to
Yeah.
having that interaction makes you see like, oh, okay, they're not that different from me. Maybe we are more similar than we think. We all have families. We all care about our families. We all care about our parents. We all care about our kids. All of us want to like see our families have a better life, be safe. Safety is important to everybody. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we're in this situation, because of the fear mongering
Hmm.
that started saying, oh, immigrants are doing immigrants. Like I said, nobody's perfect. I'm not saying all immigrants are perfect, but the
Right.
statistics show that immigrants are more likely to be victims of a crime than they are to be the perpetrator. That's the numbers, and numbers don't
Hmm.
lie. And we talk about that with U visas, because you see so many immigrants that they are victims and they're afraid to even report it, because they think, well, if I report this, am I going to get deported? If I remember a client that she was, an immigrant, and she went to a laundromat. She was doing her husband and her little baby son's laundry late at night, because that's when she had time, because she worked all day, and the laundry attendant grabbed her, put her in a back room, and raped her. And he was like, well, I know you're an immigrant, you're not going to be able to call the police, you're not going to be able to do anything about this. And
Hmm.
she eventually talked to somebody, and they said, yeah, you you have the right. Just because you're an immigrant doesn't mean that you have to be the victim of violence and not stand
Right.
up and say something. And thank God she was able to get a U visa, because I think they had cameras in the laundromat, so they were able to see what he had done to her. So these are the type of things that happen, and people kind of stay in silence because they're afraid to talk about, that. So, hopefully, people's mentality changes a little bit, and maybe start identifying, remembering their grandparents, their great grandparents who came here from wherever,
Yes.
working hard, maybe taking
Yeah.
those jobs that nobody wants, and eventually, hopefully, getting to the point where they feel like they can achieve that American dream. It's crazy, Carl.
Exactly. So,
Anything else you want to talk about before? Because I mean, there's a lot. I don't think we touched on everything, but for me, the biggest thing is the 10 days. The biggest thing is the 20 days that may happen. Like once you file it, the judge can dismiss it. So you only have a short amount of time to file your legal brief. There's a lot more stuff that are happening, but I need people to understand these 10 days, because
yes.
if your case gets denied, you don't have 30 days anymore. Oh, and Carla, we should talk about the motion for pre-term, right?
Yes, definitely. Yep, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was thinking about. So the motion to preterm it is, a new avenue that DHS is using. They are requesting that the judge preterm it or to terminate and close the case
Mhm.
because of the agreements that they're saying that the United States has entered into with other nations such as Uganda and Ecuador. As stating that they and Honduras saying that they will receive those that were
Mhm.
seeking asylum here, so that they did not need to file for asylum in the U.S. because prior to entering the U.S. they could have filed for asylum in these other countries.
Yeah,
Um, a lot of
but
the
the worst
danger that
part,
comes with that.
yeah.
Mhm.
No, I was gonna say they're not waiting to come up with that at the individual, right?
Right.
So this could be at a preliminary hearing, which is the master calendar hearing. That's the first hearing you go to. So you go to court, you go to your first hearing. You're supposed to, the judge is supposed to talk about the charges that are against you. You tell the judge, well, the judge will say, well, what kind of relief are you looking for? I'm looking for asylum. I'm looking for cancellation of removal. I've been here 10 years. I have a wife and I have kids that depend on me, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
So then the judge usually will accept the application, review it, and then he'll set it for another hearing. So you may end up having 2 or 3 hearings in court.
Mhm.
Now, at that first hearing, it's like all the prosecutors got an order to submit this motion to pre-termit. And they're like, well, we're requesting to pre-terminate the case because the United States signed an agreement with Uganda and Ecuador and, Honduras, that they're going to accept people requesting asylum. And
Mhm.
the worst part is that I think in the agreement, like you can't even really go and request and say, I want to be sure that my client's going to be safe. In somewhere in the agreement, it says that basically Christy Nome, as Secretary of Homeland Security, has already investigated that the person's going to be safe, and Pam
Right.
Bondi has already agreed to the agreement. So we're supposed to trust
Exactly. We're
see, no, and
supposed to
Pat
trust.
Bundy, that my client is going to be safe and they're actually going to do the process that they're saying they're going to do in that country, and we
Right.
can't question it. That makes no sense.
It makes no sense at all. And then we have Department of State that has issued country condition reports that have noted within those reports that, it
Yes.
hasn't been safe for individuals going into those countries, specifically immigrants seeking asylum, seeking immigration benefits or relief within those countries. It hasn't been safe for them. But yet we're going to have to trust that you've done your investigation, you've done your homework, and you found
Mhm.
it safe for our clients to go and seek asylum there. Uh,
Yeah.
make it make sense. It just
Like they
doesn't.
said, for all the Haitians and all of the
Mhm.
African immigrants, I have clients that are from Senegal, Mauritania, Cameroon. They want to send them to Uganda. But guess what?
Right.
Israel had an agreement with Uganda to send immigrants to Uganda. And the immigrants were treated so badly. Some of them were sent back to their countries where they
Hmm.
feared going back because of torture or whatever persecution. They were beaten, they were malnourished, that the Supreme Court of Israel said to the government of Israel, you can't do this anymore. You can't send
Right.
people to Uganda anymore. So for Israel, it's not safe to send immigrants to Uganda, but apparently for us, it is. Like
For
it's
us, it
fine. Yeah,
is.
Uganda, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. You'll be
it,
fine. Just go. Yeah, go to Uganda. You'll be okay. No.
it makes no sense. It's the wild, wild
Really.
west here.
Mhm.
Things that normally it would be that okay, we'll take judicial notice, where it's you don't have to argue it. The judge just takes it as it is and accepts it as a fact. It's usually things like a calendar date. Like we know that March 17th is St. Patrick's Day. January 1st, New Year's. December 25th, it's always going to be Christmas. So
Yes,
these things, a judge will take judicial notice of it. And also then you'll have certain documents that were authenticated they're self-authenticating because of their source. So government reports, government findings, such as like the country conditions report from Department of State.
exactly.
These things that
Exactly.
normally it would just take judicial notice, and it would be like, hey, here's the argument against what Christine was trying to tell us, but now we're just like, no, forget
Yeah,
about what state said. Just listen to Christine.
contradictory because like every year the Department of State does a country report on practically all the countries of the world. So for example, let's take Venezuela. According to the country report for Venezuela, the conditions are horrible. So according to the country report for Haiti, the conditions are horrible. People should not be sick. And they're putting like I think those countries are like on red, like whatever level
Yes.
that they have, like orange level, red level. They have the level saying like do not travel
Do
to
not
United
travel.
States and do not travel to Venezuela,
Mhm.
do not travel to Haiti. The country conditions are bad. So you're saying on one side the country conditions are bad and you're telling US citizens not to travel there, but you're saying we're supposed to trust that the Secretary of Homeland Security says everything's fine. We can send all the Venezuelans and the Haitians back. It's great.
Mhm.
No, it's like I said, that saying is like you're talking out of two sides of your mouth. On
Right.
one side, you're saying everything's great, and then on the other side, you're saying no, it's bad. Don't send Americans there, but it's okay
Mhm.
for everybody else. No, so
Right.
it's really like hypocritical, I think, to
Mhm.
say like it's safe for you to go back, but because so it basically makes it blatantly obvious that what they want is just to get rid of the immigrants, as many immigrants as
Exactly.
possible, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's
And
basically like what they want to do. And
it's
unfortunately, you know, people have to still deal with this, at least for now. So that's one of the reasons why get a lawyer. I always you don't have to get me. I'm not saying you have to come to me, but please get a lawyer. It's not going to be easy the way people say, "Oh, I can fill out my paperwork by myself." A lot of people did their family petitions alone, and now
Mhm.
they might have gotten approved before, but now they're getting requests for evidence. At one point, it was if you submitted a lot of evidence in your family petition under the Biden administration. Let's say you had a lot of evidence of a marriage of good faith, you had kids. Sometimes they wouldn't even call you for an interview; they would just approve it. Now they don't care. You can have 4 kids. You're coming in for an interview. We don't believe this.
Right.
Maybe it's a fake marriage. Like
Yes.
ridiculous
And
now.
even last year we saw that they were even trying to go away from even issuing the RFEs. So they were just like, um, we're not even going to issue a RFE. We're just going to outright deny these cases.
Deny
So,
the case. The guy, yeah.
like you said, we want to make sure the forms are
For those
correct.
that don't know, let me just say that because I know like we're lawyers speak right now, but
Yeah.
an RFE is a request for evidence. So basically, when you file your family petition, let's say, and if they feel like there's a lack of evidence or you're filing for naturalization, USCIS will issue this request for evidence saying you have 30 days, 60 days, up to 120 days to reply with the evidence that's missing. If you reply and everything is good, normally after that they will approve it. If they feel like they're not satisfied with what you submitted, they can deny the case. But they don't just deny it outright. Like now they're just like they've already made an announcement that they're not going to be submitting as many requests for evidences. They might just deny the case. So you could get it, you could not get it, but it's not like before where you could kind of be like, okay, at least they'll give me a chance to fix it, whatever's
Right.
missing. So and a lot of people think that they can just, oh, I'll just do it by myself. Like I had a my client that we just won, they're from Jamaica. I was so happy that we won their case. Oh
Yeah.
my God,
That was a
it
great
was a
win.
long battle with them because they filed
Mhm.
their paperwork by themselves, and they didn't realize that they didn't make enough money, so they had to get a second sponsor. So if the,
Mhm.
let's say the wife is a petitioner, she has to make a certain amount of money to say that she can support her husband, even though the husband might be working. But technically she has to show that she can support him at least until he becomes a US citizen, he or she, the spouse. And in this
Mhm.
case, she wasn't making that much, so we had to get a second sponsor. But they filled out the paperwork by themselves and they didn't know that they needed a second sponsor. So we had to redo everything, we submitted everything, and eventually the case got approved. So they were able to get their green card and they're super happy right now. But these
Yes.
are the type of things that sometimes people think, oh, it's just a form, but it's not just a form. It's evidence. It's an interview that could last like 2 hours. It's
Mhm.
not an easy process that people think that it is. So it's good to have like
Exactly.
a little bit of guidance. But my clients are super happy. They're like, thank you, Miss Diane.
Oh yes, and they
So
were
my clients call
a
me Miss
joy to work with.
Diane. So it
Yeah.
depends on the country. Some people call me abogada, some people call me licenciada, some people say doctora, some say Miss
Doctora.
Diane. Yeah, in some Latin American countries, when you're a lawyer, they call you doctora because you're a
Mhm.
doctor of law. Some countries is licenciada, whichever. I'm flexible, but they're
Yeah.
just so happy, and I'm just so happy for them that they got their case approved and they're able to stay in the United States and be together because it was a real marriage, a real relationship, and I love to
Yes.
see happy endings.
Yeah. So, and it's
Mhm.
again, like with all this, the forms being done properly, just making sure that you have the right advice, that you're getting the proper legal advice from your attorneys. It can help because we're seeing also increase in ICE involvement. So you want to make sure that
Yes.
with that increase, that you're prepared, you know what to do. If in
Mhm.
the event that they do approach you and they let you go, good. If they don't, if they do detain you, you know what steps to take as well.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
a lot of times now we're seeing that with this increase of the presence around nationwide, it's causing for individuals now to have to fight their cases within detention centers. So while being detained, so that's something that that everyone has to be aware of now. There's a possibility that you may have to fight your case within a detention center.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you, Carl. I think went like over time. We're like at 45 minutes or something now, but it was a pleasure. I don't think that we talked about everything, but I think we talked about the most important topics. So
Yes.
hopefully, maybe in like a couple weeks, we'll have another meeting. We do need to do another live in Creole because the Haitian community, they like when we do the lives in Creole because we give this information in Creole. I try to give as much information as I can to as many people as I can. I've been starting to do some videos in French, but it's hard. I forgot my French, Carl. It's so hard.
Yes, I can get introductions, but I can't get past the introduction with French. The Creole, I got you. We can do
Yeah,
Creole.
but and I'm trying to learn Portuguese. That's my next language. I want to be fluent in Portuguese. I got to do it. I got to do it.
Yes.
Anyway, have a
All
good
right.
evening, everybody. It was a pleasure talking to you guys, giving as much information as we can, and we will be back giving weekly updates. Next week might be in Spanish, might be in French. We'll let you know. At least once a
Yeah.
week. I believe once a month we try to do something in English
Yes.
for the English speaking community because we
Hmm.
have clients that are also immigrants that don't speak Spanish, don't speak French, and they like to have this information in English as well. So I will see you, Carl. Have a good day. Have a good evening. All right.
All right. Thanks.